You have felt the sting of being too much for people. That moment when your words cut too deep and suddenly the room grows cold, when your insights make others shift uncomfortably in their seats, and you realize once again that your mind operates on a frequency most cannot hear. Arthur Schopenhauer understood this peculiar torment of the intelligent man, this burden of seeing clearly in a world that prefers its comfortable blindness, and his brutal honesty about human nature reveals why society instinctively fears and isolates those who think too deeply. If you have ever wondered why your intelligence feels more like a curse than a gift, why people seem threatened by your presence even when you mean no harm, why the deeper you think the lonelier you become, then you need to understand what Schopenhauer discovered about the inevitable war between superior minds and the mediocre masses who cannot bear to be reminded of what they lack. You have felt it, that strange weight that settles on your chest when you enter a room full of people. The conversations feel hollow, the laughter forced, the concerns trivial beyond measure. Schopenhauer knew this feeling intimately, this burden of carrying a mind that operates on frequencies most cannot hear. Intelligence, true intelligence, creates a natural moat around a man, not by choice, but by the simple mechanics of mental architecture. The highly intelligent man discovers early that his thoughts move in patterns unfamiliar to others. While they discuss the weather, he contemplates the storms brewing in human nature itself. While they chase temporary pleasures, he sees the endless cycle of want and disappointment that drives all human behavior. This is not arrogance speaking. It is the natural consequence of a mind that cannot help but penetrate deeper into the mechanics of existence. Society senses this difference instinctively. They feel, without understanding why, that you see something they do not. Your very presence becomes a reminder of their own limitations, a mirror they would rather not look into. The intelligent man learns to carry his insights carefully, like carrying fire through a forest of dry wood. One careless moment of honesty, one unguarded display of the depth of your understanding, and you become the enemy they never knew they needed. When you speak with genuine insight, something uncomfortable happens in the eyes of those listening. They shift, they look away, they change the subject with practiced ease. Schopenhauer understood that intelligence acts as an unwelcome mirror, reflecting back the shallow depth of most human thought and motivation. Your clarity becomes their discomfort, your questions, their unwanted awakening to truths they prefer to leave buried. The intelligent man sees patterns where others see randomness, motivations where others accept surface explanations. When you point out the obvious contradictions in their beliefs, the clear self-deception in their choices, you are not offering wisdom, but wielding a weapon they cannot defend against. They feel exposed, naked before a mind that refuses to participate in the comfortable collective blindness that makes daily life bearable for most. This is why they fear you, not because you are cruel, but because you are honest. Your mere existence suggests that their carefully constructed world of pleasant lies might not be as solid as they believed. The mirror of intelligence shows them not who they think they are, but who they actually are. And most people would rather live in darkness than face that reflection. Your insight becomes their torment, and they will instinctively move to eliminate the source of their discomfort. Every society builds itself on a foundation of shared delusions, comfortable lies that allow the masses to sleep peacefully at night. Schopenhauer saw this clearly, how civilization depends on collective agreement to ignore certain truths about human nature, about the meaninglessness of most pursuits, about the inevitable suffering that defines existence. The intelligent man becomes dangerous because he cannot help but see through these necessary illusions. When you speak, you accidentally shatter the glass house of their beliefs. You mention how their career ambitions are really just elaborate forms of self-deception, how their relationships often mask deeper needs for validation, how their moral outrage frequently serves their own hidden interests. You do not mean to destroy their peace, but your mind naturally cuts through to the bone of things, revealing the skeleton beneath the flesh of their comfortable assumptions. The masses sense this threat to their psychological security and respond with the fury of those defending their homes. They cannot argue with your logic, so they attack your character. They cannot match your insight, so they question your motives. They cannot handle the truth you represent, so they must eliminate you from their social circle. The intelligent man learns that truth is not welcome in most conversations, that clarity is seen as cruelty, that seeing too much makes you the enemy of those who prefer to remain blind. Schopenhauer gave us the perfect metaphor for the intelligent man's relationship with society through his famous porcupine parable. Like porcupines in winter, humans need each other for warmth, but cannot get too close without causing pain. For the highly intelligent man, this dilemma becomes even more complex, his quills sharper, his need for distance greater, yet his isolation more profound. You have learned to regulate your proximity to others like a master craftsman handling delicate instruments. Too close, and your natural tendency to analyze, to question, to see beneath surfaces becomes painful to them. Too far, and the loneliness becomes unbearable even for your self-sufficient mind. This dance of approach and withdrawal becomes the defining pattern of your social existence, never quite belonging, never quite alone. The tragedy is that your intelligence makes you more capable of deep connection, more able to understand the complex motivations and hidden struggles of others. Yet this same gift makes genuine intimacy nearly impossible. People feel simultaneously drawn to your insight and threatened by your clarity. They want your wisdom, but not your honesty, your understanding, but not your truth. You become like a fire they approach for warmth but cannot embrace without being burned, forever circling at a safe distance that satisfies no one completely. Schopenhauer revealed the great secret that most men never discover, that beneath all human behavior lies the blind, irrational force he called the will. This primal drive pushes us towards survival, reproduction, dominance, all the basic animal impulses dressed up in civilized clothing. But the highly intelligent man experiences something that terrifies society, the rebellion of consciousness against this unconscious tyranny. When your mind develops beyond a certain point, you begin to see the will's puppet strings clearly. You watch others chase money, status, sexual convalidation, social approval, and you recognize these pursuits for what they truly are, the will using their bodies and minds as instruments for its own blind purposes. This recognition creates a dangerous freedom, the ability to step outside the game that keeps everyone else trapped and motivated. Society fears this liberation because it threatens the entire structure of civilized life. If men begin to see through the illusions that drive them to work, compete, consume, reproduce, the whole system loses its power. The intelligent man who has glimpsed behind the curtain becomes a virus in the social organism, potentially infectious with his dangerous clarity. They must isolate him, discredit him, make him appear crazy or dangerous, because his very existence suggests that their frantic activity might be nothing more than elaborate sleepwalking, guided by forces they do not understand or control. Schopenhauer recognized what modern society desperately tries to deny, that intelligence creates a natural hierarchy among men that no amount of democratic ideology can eliminate. The highly intelligent man exists in a different realm of thought and understanding, an aristocracy of mind that threatens the comfortable fiction that all perspectives are equally valid, that all opinions deserve equal respect. You have felt the weight of this invisible crown, the burden of seeing clearly in a world that insists on the equality of all viewpoints. When you speak, your words carry the authority of deeper understanding, cutting through confusion with precision that makes others feel intellectually naked. This natural superiority cannot be hidden or diminished. It radiates from your presence like heat from a flame, making those around you acutely aware of their own mental limitations. The democratic age cannot tolerate this reminder of natural inequality. They have built their entire worldview on the premise that differences in understanding are merely differences in education or opportunity, not fundamental variations in mental capacity. Your existence threatens this foundational lie, suggesting that some minds are simply built to penetrate deeper into reality than others. They must either acknowledge this uncomfortable truth or find ways to diminish you, to drag you down to their level where their insecurities can find relief from the comparison that torments them. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes with clarity, a weight that settles on the shoulders of those who cannot help but see the world as it truly is, rather than as it pretends to be. Schopenhauer understood this burden intimately, how the gift of penetrating insight becomes a curse when you must live among those who prefer their comfortable illusions. The highly intelligent man carries this cross daily, seeing the emptiness behind the masks, the desperation beneath the smiles, the fear driving the aggression. You watch the theater of human interaction with eyes that cannot be fooled by the performance. You see the married couple whose love died years ago, but who continue the charade out of habit and fear. You recognize the successful businessman whose achievements mask a deep terror of his own insignificance. You understand the social activist whose righteous anger springs from unresolved personal wounds rather than genuine concern for justice. This clarity brings no joy, only the heavy responsibility of knowing what others cannot bear to know. The tragedy is that you cannot share this burden without becoming the villain of their stories. When you gently point out the obvious contradictions, when you suggest that their suffering might stem from self-deception rather than external circumstances, you become the enemy who threatens their carefully constructed peace. The intelligent man learns to carry his insights alone, like a doctor who can diagnose the illness but knows the patient will refuse treatment and blame the messenger for the uncomfortable truth. Envy operates like a fundamental law of human nature, and nowhere is this more evident than in society's relationship with the highly intelligent man. Schopenhauer observed that people cannot possess what they cannot understand, and intelligence represents the most maddening form of wealth, because it cannot be stolen, inherited, or purchased. The mediocre mind faces the intelligent man like a pauper looking through the window of a mansion he can never enter. You have witnessed this dynamic countless times, the way conversations shift when your insight cuts too deep, how colleagues subtly work to undermine your contributions, how friends become distant when your success makes their limitations too obvious. They cannot take your intelligence from you, so they must find ways to diminish its value, to make it seem like a liability rather than an asset, to convince themselves and others that perhaps you are not as smart as you appear. This economic principle of envy drives much of the social hostility you encounter. They cannot elevate themselves to your level of understanding, so they must find ways to drag you down to theirs. They whisper about your social awkwardness, your supposed arrogance, your inability to connect with regular people. They create narratives that transform your strength into weakness, your clarity into coldness, your depth into dysfunction. The intelligent man learns that in the marketplace of human relationships, superior goods often face the fiercest resistance from those who cannot afford to purchase what they desperately want to possess. The wise man learns to navigate society like a skilled diplomat in hostile territory, revealing just enough of his true nature to function while concealing the depths that would provoke fear and resentment. Schopenhauer mastered this delicate art, understanding that complete honesty leads to complete isolation, while total concealment leads to spiritual death. The intelligent man must find the narrow path between these extremes, sharing his gifts without triggering the defensive mechanisms of those around him. You develop an intuitive sense of how much truth each person can handle, how deep you can go in conversation before you see that familiar shift in their eyes, the moment when curiosity turns to discomfort, when interest becomes suspicion. You learn to speak in layers, offering surface meanings to those who can only swim in shallow waters, while encoding deeper truths for the rare minds capable of diving to greater depths. This becomes your survival strategy, your way of remaining connected to humanity without sacrificing your essential nature. The art lies in making your retreat appear like engagement, your distance seem like intimacy. You master the skill of nodding at appropriate moments while your mind wanders to more interesting territories, of asking questions that keep others talking about themselves, while revealing nothing significant about your own inner landscape. The intelligent man becomes a ghost moving through society, present enough to avoid complete isolation, absent enough to preserve the sanctuary of his own thoughts from those who would pollute it with their need to drag everything down to their incomprehensible level. The final wisdom that Schopenhauer offers to the intelligent man is perhaps the most difficult to embrace, the profound peace that comes from accepting your natural separation from the masses rather than fighting against it. This acceptance transforms what once felt like punishment into recognition of your true nature, like an eagle finally understanding why it cannot swim with fish and finding joy in the freedom of flight instead. When you stop trying to belong where you were never meant to fit, a remarkable transformation occurs. The energy you once wasted attempting to translate your thoughts into digestible portions for minds that could never truly understand them becomes available for higher purposes. You begin to see your isolation not as loneliness, but as the necessary condition for deep thought, your difference not as a burden, but as the price of genuine insight into the nature of existence. This liberation does not make you bitter or misanthropic, but rather compassionate in a way that transcends the need for approval or understanding. You see the masses struggling with their limitations and feel something closer to sympathy than superiority, recognizing that they too are trapped by forces beyond their control. The intelligent man who reaches this acceptance finds a peace that society can neither give nor take away, a contentment rooted not in connection with others, but in alignment with his own essential nature. Finally free from the exhausting attempt to be understood by those who lack the capacity for such understanding. The intelligent man's greatest tragedy is not that he sees too much, but that he must carry this vision alone in a world that punishes clarity with isolation. So ask yourself this: are you ready to embrace the solitude that comes with true understanding, or will you continue dimming your light to make others comfortable in their darkness? Share your thoughts below about how intelligence has shaped your relationships. Subscribe to this channel if you recognize yourself in these truths, and remember that your mind is not a burden to apologize for, but a gift that demands your courage to use fully.